How we doing?
I think I'm developing a sickness, but I'm not sure.
And is this a purposeful development? Is it like shooting yourself in the foot to avoid the war or something like that?
I just woke up and my throat's sore. And like the usual combination of like water and or cough drop does not work this time.
Well, that's not good. I wish you luck with whatever is developing.
Yeah, I'll deal with it later.
Well, you know, that always helps. Tomorrow is the salve of today. Or something like that. So while we wait or ponder waiting, what do we have in mind?
What do you mean?
Just that. There was a lot that Benji and the gals had gotten up to.
I think if Mara serves right, Benji was getting his ass kicked and he's groveling on the floor.
Well, you know, one person's groveling is another person's standing oration for their life.
I think it's going to continue the beetle position, protecting himself. If I remember, that's what he was doing. It's been a month at least, though.
Yes. But I am tired. Headache and all that good stuff, so.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't become a full-fledged pain in the ass, but never can tell these days. And that's right, I didn't get around to making Finn's relationship map, but I will. Hey yo, how we doing?
Do I sound okay to you?
Sound like you to you. Me?
What are we listening
Earlier,
for?
what happened when I was talking with Jimmy earlier, he said I went all robotic and like choppy, and he was only getting every other word, and we couldn't tell if it was him or me.
Oh
and
no!
I started joking. I'm like, well, after, huh?
I said, oh no, it was definitely you. No, what I mean is that earlier your status on my side of things, because I was on my phone for once instead of dialed in, was showing as unstable. Like you were showing in Discord as unstable network.
That makes sense. Sometimes this fucking internet is trash, but What it was, I started laughing because I'm like, it figures as soon as nobody leaves, my microphone's like, nope, he left. We don't have nobody to talk to no more. Bye bye. Okay, so if it's better now that I'm happy, just gonna. I'm still here. I'm just looking through some stuff.
What are you looking through, by the way?
Now that we've kind of shut down on certain games right now, or we're hiatusing certain things, I'm closing out story like sheets I don't particularly need at the moment, so I don't have like a whole stack of them because usually I try to keep them all up just in case. But now that like we're done with Hunter for the moment, I can close that out. Now that we're done with Concordia for the moment, I can close that out. So that's what I'm just looking through, which things I can shut off.
Nice. Hey Jay, how we doing?
What's up?
Well, you know, another day, another 15 cent. I have a headache. Sensei's got a bug working, and Anaya has internet issues and finally closing down tabs that she's left open for 3 years or something like that.
Wow, that's something.
A little bittersweet. Millie, where are we at with Millie? Am I gonna need to leave that one for now?
Millie? I think so. I think so. I should probably sit up and be accounted for. Not that I'm ever laying down or anything or in repose. But my chair has gotten very comfortable with leaning back and being all askew. You all deserve the full upright activity. Alright, so.
Phrasing. Anyway, Mallory. Should I close Mallory?
Mallory, there's still 2 planned episodes for New Orleans. The last official episode for this season and chronicle is October 1st, and of course we move things up. Things can be moved, of course, but right now that's where we are. That's what's planned. Things change and adapt, but that's where we are.
Okay, and this one is for Jaded. I did finish my character sheet for next Wednesday, and I'll get that to you, but then nobody also said I should probably answer the questions you put in the DM. So I'll be working on that between tonight and tomorrow, depending on how awake I am after all of this.
Tweet.
Yeah, how awake you are or how awake the character is, because there could be several differences between that. Does everyone remember where we were approximately?
No.
Excellent. Benji, would you like to refresh everyone's memory?
Benji's getting his ass kicked. Anaya's kicking ass, and I can't remember what the fuck Bailey was doing.
Anaya, I want to add details.
We had gone to that party, and there was a creepy thing on the roof, and we ran in to tell Benji about the creepy thing on the roof. And meanwhile, Benji was in the bathroom getting his ass beat because he smoked more of that Potemkin thing and thought he was the knight again, but was outnumbered. And then Anaya kind of came in and started fighting with the guys that were beating up Benji. Meanwhile, all hell broke loose inside the rest of the club.
Yeah, if Eric serves right, this place is filled with werewolves.
Werewolves? That's an old wives' tale. No one's seen a werewolf in years.
We literally saw one last night.
Oh, well, yeah, there's that. But that was the exception to the rule, after all. You know, strange things happen out there.
I don't know whether we had established that they were werewolves specifically. We thought they might be, but then they might be something else based on the red eyes that reflected back on us in the picture. So we were kind of like, what are they?
I think based off of aura reading bullshit and stuff Nobu sent me in DMs, they are 100% werewolves.
Wait a minute, wait, that was you I sent those pictures to? I'm sorry. I was a little inebriated. These things happen. That was a joke. Or not.
I was laughing, but I was choking at the same time.
So, as we prepare to dive into the maelstrom of what has become the new normal in Gary, insane things happening for insane reasons, spinning kaleidoscopically out into a conflagration of chaos, of choice and consequence beyond the character's understanding and volition. What, if any, questions do we have?
I must have zoned out. What was Haley doing again last time? I remember the bathroom stuff, but I wasn't in that.
You had her head to the dance floor, remember?
Okay, got it.
Today is Friday. It is not our Wednesday. It's not the high feast day of our week of play, our 2 days of stepping away from our reality. But it is still a very holy of hobby days. It is our opportunity to escape the gravitational pull of our world. It is our opportunity to dive into the world as these characters will have it. Their choices, their consequences, their agency and reasons for being. And there's no other way except for just saying it. Thank you all for providing the opportunity to escape our world. Thank you for indulging in this hobby, and thank you for creating and breathing life into these characters and their environs. And without further ado, without too much more of that beating of the horse, diving around the bush, this is officially, without a shadow of a doubt, Steel Hearts, Rusted Souls. Tonight's episode, you're very welcome for the perfect normalcy, picks up seconds from when we last left these characters. Fractions of time that mean absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of their potential immortalities. The unacted upon, unseen aspects of the burgeoning and growing war of the Midwest, with so many forces swooping into the area, hanging around the edges of places such as this, such as Gary, the far southern suburbs of Chicago, the far western suburbs of Chicago, the outer climes of Milwaukee, reaching from as far south as South America and encompassing every facet along the way to varying degrees of the major cities, the major burbs, the major hubs of the kindred community. There is something darker afoot. There is something in the offing. And while Anaya, Benji, and Haley have had the opportunity of being isolatedly lost in their own world, the world itself has continued moving. The forces on both sides of the line have continued growing. This is not the only space in their world tonight to have an overabundance of the extraordinary. But for them, this is the first time being close enough to touch with very little room for escape. So understanding that Benji, having been jumped, having been accosted, having been suffering through and surviving as he has for years, as the pincushion, the football, the soccer ball, the thing that is kicked around both physically and spiritually, and Anaya being the battering ram of pent-up frustrations expressed with a smile. Because after all, even during her living years, she channeled her emotions into the physical, building muscle strength and stamina. She channeled her darker emotions, seldom seen, seldom expressed, into working on her form. By being brighter than the darkness around her. And for Haley, there's no other way to place it. There's no other way to say it. There's no other way to fully grasp the outright flight from every single opportunity to deal in accordance with the world around her. At every chance, at every loggerhead of potential accountability, she has always chosen flight. She has always chosen escape. She's always chosen to attempt to float along the surface of the water instead of diving in and making waves. And this night is not much different for either of them, each falling back to what has helped them to blithely dance, to glide along the surface, to skim through and never delve into the world around them. So, in alphabetical order, with the driving bass beat of the club echoing off the walls, reverberating back to them with the sound of, well, chaos that comes from any social gathering, with the sound of the rooms, each of them in being their own kaleidoscopic maelstrom of unbelievable sheer ablative damage. What are we doing?
How many men are still standing or beating up on Benji? Because she took the main one down. I remember that part.
About 3 right now. The others deciding whether it's really worth it or, well, have they had their fun? They've got their kicks. Maybe they could, share a little bit with the round-shouldered, large-bosomed woman who is suddenly presenting themselves to be a potential actual threat.
Very much not to her normal facial visage. Usually she reminds herself to be pretty at all times, but right now she is lip curled, fairly bestial. Have we learned our fucking lesson yet? Or do we need more ass beating? Leave him the fuck alone and I'll leave you the fuck alone.
That sounds to me like a full show of intimidation. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your charisma and intimidation +1? And while that is happening, Benji, hearing that, feeling that difference, because there is a difference when you're at the bottom of a dog pile, when you are curled up protecting all of your vital organs, a lessening in the blows raining down, a lessening in the kicks being scuffed across the face and across the limbs is noticeable. Every person who's had to engage multiple opponents knows that that presents the opportunity typically for escape, to regather one's feet, to get out of the center of the pile, to not be surrounded. Maybe you put them all on one side. Maybe you use that momentum to, well, take flight. But that's another matter entirely. What does Benji do? Has he had the experience of being engaged by so many foes at once? Does he understand that a slackening of the blows typically means that there's an opportunity?
In Benji's experience, eventually people get tired of kicking and eventually leave, so he's just going to just stay where he is and just stay curled up. Doubly so if she manages to scare them the fuck away.
Excellent. And while that fracas, while that row is in full bloom inside the restroom, on the dance floor, with tensions rising with there's a feel, just like a sound, to every room. And while the feel of the room is in fact chaotic, while the feel of the room is that of youthful exuberance, just the sheer unloading of emotionality, whether it is raucous laughter or a few people in the corner crying over someone cheating on someone else or dancing with someone else, or the fact that they took my ID, or whatever it is, there's always a wide spectrum of just the unloading and unleashing of that emotion into the air. Just get rid of it. There's just sweating it off, dancing it off, drinking it off, and other expressions of just sheer unbridled release of emotions. And yet there's a subtle change, as if like sheep or other livestock detecting the faintest scent of the predator on the wind. There's a shift of things. The sounds slightly change. While no one's outright screaming and yelling and running for their lives, there is a shift of that energy. It's not all just emotionality. Some of it is the very real, palpable scent and stench of fear. So on the dance floor, as Haley gives themselves over to that emotionality, that previous overdone, overwrought, just so over feeling. What, if anything, is she doing?
Not much of anything, just dancing. Probably kind of sucking in the emotions because she's used to dealing with just the dipshits at her house who don't seem to have a whole lot of respect for her. So.
All right. Let's see what fate decides in regards to the sheer aggression pouring off of Anaya. Our first glimmer, our first real view of some other aspect of Anaya.
I kind of take that as her still being too pretty to be intimidating.
And it very much is that. She's soft and curvaceous. She's typically more accustomed to smiling through the pain instead of gritting her teeth and flashing fang at it. And intimidation, like most other skills and most other aspects, is a practiced skill. There's a certain menace that one projects off into the world based on one's own environment, one's own nurturing community. There are always individuals that are other, that are outside of the hub and crux of the community, that are viewed through xenophobic eyes as automatically, inherently dangerous because of that difference. If this had been perhaps Michigan Avenue, if this perhaps had been Main Street, if this had been perhaps anywhere else, there would have been an automatic, inherent dangerousness applied to Anaya. But this is none of those places. This is Gary. This is where survival, just making it to the next day, places you in the rarefied air of the haves versus the have-nots. When the very real cost of a life and it's far more economical than the cost of a gallon of gas, there's very little that is inherently viewed as dangerous. There is very little that is inherently viewed as anything more than the average, ordinary Monday afternoon tea. And though she snarls and presents a visage that would be akin to someone who could tear steel with their bare hands, she can all but hear them scoff. She can all but hear them, "Oh, we've got another contender!" And as several of them decide to close to prove how undangerous she is. As always, the question is, what does she do?
Well, seeing as how they didn't listen and they think she's a joke, and she's not willing to back down, she made a promise. So let's go. The first one to get close gets grabbed, and she goes to try to break whatever she can.
Excellent. Please go ahead and roll your strength and brawl.
I'm gonna rouse the blood. She's angry.
Angry is good. Anger gets things done. I see. Is that your final roll?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave the 5.
Okay. As more feet leave Benji's face, as more feet stop abrading and contusing his limbs and his curled in ball of activity, as more limbs stop bursting through his personal space and engaging him with sharp blows of battering force, as laughter begins to reach his covered and huddled ears. What is it that Benji does, if anything?
Is he still getting kicked?
There's always one straggler in the crowd who hasn't.
He's gonna wait until it stops completely.
Alright, sounds like a plan. And as the tension on the dance floor rises to the level of easily noticed by those with any senses, Haley,
Yes.
do you continue dancing obliviously?
Probably.
Alright, sounds like a plan. So, things proceeding as they proceed. The tension on the dance floor rising to the level of, oh shit, what the fuck, oh my god. People begin jostling and running away from the source, which is closer to the door and moving halfway between the space. And there's clearly something in the offing. The music's still too loud to really hear, except for those who are within 2 or 3 feet from you. Clearly, would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll your strength and athletics to dodge and not be swept up into the crowd and all but move like floats along the surface of the ocean as the crowd breaks and people begin running and shoving and jostling and pushing. And while that roll is happening, in the restroom, the violin's already afoot. The press and throng of just oversaturated inability to settle and be peaceful with one's surrounding spills into them, opening like a half circle around Anaya. The first blow as he steps in, clumsily streaking across her cheek. The next few being considerably more and directly aimed. All missing their target. All glancing here, bouncing there, all just shy of the goal. If it was a fair and equitable competition between the skill that Anaya displayed and the skill that they displayed, it would be the difference between gold and silver, a distance of a few micro fractions of a second, placing them firmly in silver. Unfortunately, in combat, there is no second place. There is survive and not. And in the engagement, the person who steps forward first and that blow goes glancing by is not one long for this world, because they fall easily prey into Anaya's hands. They are an offering, a sacrifice, a gift from the gods delivered into her, presented as, well, opportunity. And outside of making an example out of him, is Anaya doing anything else?
She looks towards Benji on the floor. Don't just fucking lay there, get up. We got a werewolf on the loose.
More than one. This place is filled with them.
Well,
So,
then
like-
still, get up.
Just a minute. I need to unclench my entire body.
Now, this conversation that is happening between them is being carried out while Anaya is literally breaking and abrading and contusing a multiplicity of individuals less than a few feet from where he is curled fetally.
Yeah, if she's not gonna stop until they stop, until they back the fuck off or can't hit her anymore, she's not stopping.
Which is interesting. The drive to survive that possesses one in such situations. The will to not be ground up any more than what has already been broken. The indefatigable spirit of I will see tomorrow. I will. And the difference of that on the dance floor is the crowd surges and moves like one great wave, as while audible is just barely so, the noises of sheer animalistic release that are happening in the crowd further removed from where Haley is, the music pounding off the walls, and as the crowd surges and people begin screaming within earshot, screaming within 2 to 3 feet of her, and moving with the flow of people back and away from all of that just unbridled uncoolness. People losing their minds, they delirium ping-ponging from one person to the next and driving them forward as if they are in fact a flock of sheep being steered by the sheepdog, being assailed by the predator. Haley is not the tallest of individuals. She's not the hardiest of individuals. She is not a person who in a different age would have been chosen for leadership back during the days where, well, to be perfectly honest, even now, most of our leaders are chosen because of their ability to see over the crowd. Most of our leaders are chosen because of the image that they project, standing openly and defiantly against the tides of whatever danger may be coming towards the tribe. Haley isn't that statuesque, determined sort of individual, at least not an image. So as the crowd surges and spills and crashes against one wall, bounding off the next, moving and jostling people, and certain individuals being swept under, pulled down into the darkness of trampling feet, and fear responsed rushing. It's not an image that anyone really ever wants. Several pairs of feet rushing towards your face, looking up through the mad dash and web work of people rushing and jostling, and knees moving past, and one or two trying not to step on what they know is another person, but unable to stop the crush and push of the crowd. It's never an image that Haley wanted scarred and seared into her mind. But lo and behold, most kids don't want coal on Christmas. Most people don't want Krampus to visit them. But these things happen. There was a reason why the three entered the club. There were various reasons, of course, but there were reasons. This was not on her list of things to do or have done. Thus she lay there, crushed, being trampled, being, well, used like a mat, just like every other society around her. Or does she swim up to the surface? Does she fight for purchase? Does she seek to escape the ebb and flow of the way the people are moving?
Not being terribly strong, she will probably try to get someone to help her up using her awe.
That is a thing. But how much of a thing? Let's find out. Would you be so kind as go ahead and roll your charisma and persuasion with the bonus of your presence? Have you all ever done laundry? And in the doing of laundry found a 10 spot or a dub in the watch pocket of your jeans, or getting in the car and taking out your sunglasses from the visor and found a series of dollar bills that were forgotten and tossed aside? That's what Edgar feels. He feels rejuvenated. He feels lucky in a way that he's never felt lucky a day in his life before. This was to be his last night. He had several things planned on the way that he'd go out, drunk, high out of his mind, and wrung out like a towel. Planned on tomorrow's sunrise being the last thing he saw. This society, this environment, this city was no longer for him. But he couldn't see himself being anywhere else in the world. He was Gary, born and bred. His grandfather had died here. His father had died here. His sire had died here. This city would claim him too, come the rise of the sun. It'd be perfect. He was born 3 minutes past sunrise 62 years ago. And while a lot has changed, none of it for the better. And while he's managed to survive a lot, he planned to not survive this evening. He was here to get his fill, to while away the last night of his existence. He had come to end his forever night with a bacchanalia dedicated to his own suffering and its release. And then he found $20. And then he found that squirreled away mad money he'd forgotten. And it was as if the gods who'd forsaken his life and everything that had become had decided to smile on him. Not so much as offer him a hand up, not so much as change his fate and everything that's come before, but just that smile, that warming, beautiful smile of one's maker to reinvigorate the passions and make the definitive understanding that tonight would be the last dim some. There was a dulling of the pain. There was a, no matter what happens, it'll be as it has been. It'll be great. It'll be better than it was. And that ray of sunshine, that brief flickering smile of one's maker, was Haley calling out from beneath the crowd. Haley reaching forward like man reaching towards God in that famous painting. It was a sign. All the lights of the club settling on that outstretched and extended finger, moving up its arm towards that face, which would bring tears to all of the greatest classical painters. And he did the only thing he can do. He reached back, lifting her up, pulling her to her feet. The shock and amazement on his face, echoing exactly how he felt in that moment, staring into that besmudged, blood-stained, angelic face. And standing there before Edgar, her savior, her knight errant, Haley looks into the eyes darker than the most cloud-stricken night. No stars, nothing reflecting save her own image, and a soft opened smile, a lopsided thing with dimples on the left side, his brows bushy and heavy, and even all these years from his origination, his creation, his birth, a youthful hope sitting plainly in his face as he stares into hers. There's something about knowing you're going to die that removes all fear, or at least that's what you've been told. The proof of that pudding is somewhat bittersweet, because the Savior, the person who lifted her from the muck and mire and the trampling of all of the other guests here, splits down the middle, a rivulet of vitae salting the air as one hemisphere of his head goes to the left and the other hemisphere of his head goes to the right, followed quickly on by his neck following suit, falling in half before her very eyes. Behind it, touchably close, focused on her, unsure as to what to do, is a face that she will never forget, no matter how many seconds more she has to live. Huge and massive. Its anger and fury clear and apparent. Its breath hot and smelling like meat. It is a monstrous thing that has no place being in this world. From a distance of 10-15 feet, it wouldn't seem as massive. It wouldn't block out the lights. It wouldn't change the air. But this close, smelling its fur, smelling the stench of blood sticking to it, smelling its hot, heavy breath that slides along the skin, leaving a stain behind it, is another matter entirely. If Haley had been alive, there's no doubt in her mind that her mind would have flipped, torn itself to pieces, and put itself back together just long enough to scream in despair. But she's not alive. She gets to see what this thing is up close and personal. She gets to witness all of its insane strength, the muscles rippling underneath the skin, the hair standing on edge like a dog with hackles raised. And she sees what has driven most of the crowd running in fear, crashing into one wall off the next, screams and cries of pain as their minds twist in their heads. While in the bathroom, the sound of bodies being broken, bruised, and contused continues as the last member falls, broken and holding things that should never be smacked upon, beat upon, and wrenched out of their normal places. Anaya, Benji.
So she stands there kind of like a little bit of a Valkyrie. I'm sure she didn't make it without at least a couple little tears to her clothing and scuffs. So looking around, and then does she notice the sounds from the other space now that everything's quiet in here?
It's quiet in here. It's quiet in the bathroom, but the bass and driving beat are still going outside. It is definitely still a party music soundtrack, a deep house, though some was to see it as techno, but it is really unfortunately deep house that just crossed over the border from Chicago down through the suburbs and into Gary. It is very much a house music that is happening, but it sounds like European techno and industrial to layman's ears.
Okay, so not knowing what else is going on in there, or that how horribly wrong things have gone, she will help Benji to his feet, and we need to find a back way out of here, like now. But we also have to go get Haley because apparently they were on the dance floor when I left them, and I don't want them to be left in. Besides, they have the car keys.
Okay.
So
Get out of caution. They're gonna make their way slowly.
as you all turn and head towards the door of the restroom, a body goes flying by. I know, not running by, not carried on their own volition, but flying, like a bird, a low-flying bird inside of an industrial space, or to be more closely appropriate, the canary finally reaching the end of the coal mine, where the air is thin enough and weak enough that it can't even continue breathing. Its heart no longer pumping in its chest. The muscles doing what muscles do, memorized paths of motion as it crashes into the ground. One flying body does not a pattern make. However, people don't fly. Kindred don't fly. Nothing flies but birds. So anything with just 4 limbs and none of them wings flying is a glowing red light, a bright sign of something being horribly wrong. And then comes the trampling herd of people seeking a way out. Screams, yells, accusations of "I'm never smoking this shit again."
Well, shit. I guess we can't go that way. Is there a window in the bathroom, Benji?
If there was, I would have gone. Yeah, no.
Fuck. Shit, we gotta figure out a way out of here. And, like, now. And she starts looking for an alternate exit to either stay ahead of the running crowd or, like, out of the way of whatever threw the person.
Which takes precedence? Skirting around the crowd or finding a way out?
Probably a way out. Cause she knows she can stand her own in a crowd for the most part.
Okay, so an alternate path out is what's on Anaya's mind. Does she take any steps to maintain visual recognition of Benji? Does she lift him up over her head and carry him so that he stays with her? Or does she single-mindedly look for a way out and expect him to be able to keep up with her?
No, she knows he's pretty beat to shit already, and he's not the type to self-preserve, so she tucks him kind of under her arm, like a football, and runs with him.
what happened because the internet is fucky-wucky right now.
Body went flying past, making it so that we cannot go that way that we were originally going to go. So now we are looking for an alternate way out. And Storyteller asked me if I would just let you run for yourself or grab you so that I don't lose you again. And Anaya would pick him up under her arm and just kind of run with him.
Okay.
All right, looking for the way out, finding escape, as most of the souls are attempting to do. They're down to that primal need for fight or flight, with nearly every person choosing flight, because one does not fight a bear. And one does not stand toe to toe against anything white or brown when it comes to the earth sign species. And that's what they're seeing this as. That's what these massive monsters are. They're brown earth sign creatures the size of white earth sign creatures. If it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lay down. If it's white, you ain't gotta fight. And most people instinctively understand that. And so these brown large bears that have invaded this space, the only thing that's possible is to escape. You don't have to be faster than the bear, just faster than the person next to you. And as people are falling and being tripped and being kicked, some people are being thrown over their shoulder away from the path of flight. Anaya, would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus awareness? Benji, you're being carried, drug along as a parcel. So your focus isn't on moving your limbs. Your focus isn't on fighting through the crowd. Your view is a little limited, but you, unlike most, have the extrasensory ability that allows you to feel it. Not in the bruising and contusing and bumping and abrading that happens in the press of the crowd. Being able to sense the unseen means that your senses, your skin, your olfactory, your visual and auditory senses are able to pick up on things that others do not. It is the reason for all of the insanity of your entire existence, being able to see things others were not, and the need to escape the reality that you have been trapped in. As such, will you be so kind as to roll your wits plus awareness plus auspics?
Will celerity help at all, or is this not a speed thing?
It is not a speed thing. It is being aware and plotting and going with the flow just enough to make it easier to bound this way or step this way or shoulder block that person out of the way. It is a grasping the lay of the land and moving with and against the flow just enough to get closer to your goal of escape.
Difficulty.
As high as you can.
Understood.
Not that high. Not that high.
You asked me to roll my highest dice pool.
You said high, then you stay high.
Indeed.
Look, man, he's been getting high this entire campaign.
Well, we all have our hobbies. His are a little more destructive, but you know, we all have our hobbies. So normally what I would do is start with the lowest awareness of the situation and work toward the highest, but there really is no point in doing that in this particular case. Benji in the safe, secure arms of Anaya. For the first time in his life, he actually feels secure. He's sure that outside of a grenade knocking him free of Anaya's grip, there's nothing that will happen to him. He won't be accidentally dropped. He won't be pulled free. There's nothing short of the hand of God that would keep him from being safely in her grip. Which, unfortunately for him, means so very much more is immediately available. He's not looking for a way out. His beast isn't trying to safely secure him. He's not fighting against anything external. He has the opportunity to, unbeknownst to himself, accidentally relax into the safety and security of Anaya's grip. And it is horrible. With his guard down even for a fraction of a moment, having freshly just finished smoking the Potemkin, having been beaten within an inch of his immortality, his senses are open. He's able to see the shifting auras of fear on every entity around him. He's able to delineate the difference between the bright, shiny energies of the people around him to the pale ones mixed and mingling with that crowd seeking escape. He's able to scent and determine how close the spirits are in and around him. He is a magnet of information bombarding himself, everything being pulled in, everything being felt, the tremulation of fear being an actual note he can hear, see, and taste. The excitement and rage of others sprinkled throughout the crowd. Again, he can see, feel, taste, and hear. He is being trampled upon by the sheer weight of the emotions bouncing off every surface. It's painful. It's all fire too much. And yet, because of the hot, scalding energy of those vibrant, bright auras, the energy laser-like cutting through the darkness and almost blindingly assaulting him. He knows where those pillars of danger are. He can feel them. He knows how close and how distant they are. And he also sees the pale aura, the energy wafting off of Haley as that engine of destruction, that pillar of flame, that towering inferno of danger has its attentions focused, as if it's staring into the sun, deciding on whether to swallow it whole or to simply eat it bit by bit. Closes on her.
Just being literally flashbanged by auras, it'll take him a couple of moments before he registers and tries to direct Anaya in the direction of Haley.
How?
Pointing and screaming, probably.
Can I hear him over everything that's going on?
Even if you couldn't, you'd be able to feel him. He is in your grip. He is your package. He is your gift.
But instinctually, I know the way that he's pointing is back where the danger is coming from. Correct.
Good question. There's out and then there's out.
Get what you're trying to say, Benji. I really, really do. But that's where everybody's running from. Why would we go back that way? We're trying to get out.
Okay, you said you wanted Haley. She's over there.
Of course she is. Fuck.
Also, fire. Lots of fire. Everything's on fire. Like the sun. Fuck, I'm staring at the sun.
And I can't watch the both of them at the same time. Benji's already in her grasp. She's going to get him to safety first, and if she can't, go back to her.
Staring into the face of savage fury, staring into the face that shouldn't exist, knowing the primal rejection of this reality that is bombarding your visual range, smelling the dander, smelling the blood, feeling the pressure of all of that heat, anger wafting off of it. What does Haley do?
She figures she's got one shot to survive this, so she takes that shot, which is to look the thing in the eyes and say, "Forget me," using cloud memory and try to blend herself back into the crowd while she drops all.
Well now, that is a novel reaction. That is not easily done. To stand in the face of one's own primal fear and summon up an action, summon up a concentrated attack and fighting back against that sickeningly sweet, sour thing that attempts to pull you into the dark, attempts to cause you to lose your way, attempts you to help you take your eye off the ball. Would you be so kind as to go ahead and roll? And I'm taking it that you are using cloud memory. That's what it's called.
Yep.
Yeah. So, go ahead and roll your charisma and dominate. And I will deduct your presence from their wits resolve pool because they are staring, they are caught, they are curious as to why they are so attracted to you of all beings in this place? Is it Gaia telling them something? Is it their need to destroy something beautiful? Is it the fact that they always had a thing for blondes? And, you know, steely blue eyes. Of all places, of all gin joints in all the world. They're lost. They're unsure. They're undecided. And what does fate say is the outcome? Haley, high or low?
Low?
There's something absolutely horrible about fate, kismet, serendipity, and all of the cousins of Destiny's family tree. The sisters and brothers that conspire and contort with one another, controlling the loom of fate, spinning out of one's destiny. It is laughable how often they conspire to form a comedy of errors, where one noble intention assures nothing but the most ignoble outcomes. Such is not the case today. The heat wafting off of this thing does not sputter out. The fugue that falls over those great massive orbs staring right through the soul of you is visible from 10 paces, frozen in time, trapped in forgetting the source of its attention, its nose filled with a perfume that calls to a memory. It stands breathing as its kin decimates the crowds, taking one pale, clearly very much living vampire out of the population census, and its other kin raging through the upper floors. It stands staring into the crowd, fleeing before it, as the four-legged cousin, its distant kin, the newest member of its pack, snaps and snarls and tramples and rolls through another portion of the crowd, seeking the face that it can't remember. It's seeking the source of its confusion, only to find itself even more confused. Was it under the attack of some strange spirit that made it across the shroud into this world? It's unsure, and that doubt causes its anger to twist and turn on itself. And as Haley slinks into the surging and swelling and receding crowd of fearful former partiers, another soul loses its grip on this mortal coil as the creature, as the bear-sized wolf that stared into her soul lashes out in anger. And unfortunately for the vampire-focused, wolf-spirited goth girl, its aim is surprisingly more true than it should have been. It's hard telling these things apart, those posers versus those real dead things in this space. Perhaps it's better just to take them all out. When everyone, well, not everyone, because Benji's being carried. He is the football. He's the presidential suitcase with all of the arming codes for the nuclear weapons. He's the most valuable thing beneath Anaya's arms. That being the case, Anaya, Haley, be so kind as to roll your wits plus larceny or stealth. Your DC is 4, and it is a little bit early, but it's 33 after the hour. Let's take a quick 10 and be back with the results of what fate has in store for our triptych of psychedelically inclined survivalist. And welcome back, everybody. How we doing?
Meh.
Meh is a feeling. It's like the one I get sometimes. I feel that she's watching over me. I don't know who she is, but there are other times I feel like I should go, like, through it all, like the rise and the fall, the ebb and flow, if you will, the bodies in the streets, and when you're gone, I think that we all want you to know that we'll carry on. Everybody else back?
I'm back, but I'm too hype over dinner right now.
Fair enough.
What stories did the kids use now? So they bussin'?
Understandable. A good meal, a hearty one, a filling one. It's a good thing. Breaking bread physically or spiritually with those around us helps tie those bonds, because it is the absorption and energy necessary to continue life. And who we choose to continue life with says a lot about them for us, which is an odd dichotomy, as in the press and push of the crowd, fighting free with the elbow here or a well-placed stomp against someone's shin or instep there, Anaya and Benji move further against the ebb and flow of the crowds around them, the running, the screaming, the crying, the dying, the pausing at just the right moment to look through the crowd to visually see what has been washing over Benji for seconds, for minutes that feel like lifetimes. Anaya is able to see a mind-shattering proximity to a wolf whose hackles stand dead even with the bridge of her nose, which means that if it stands on its rear legs, it would tower over her. And if that was not enough mental injury and insult, from a distance, having escaped the naked twins was one thing. Having glimpsed it out of the corner of your eye, another thing entirely. But staring on the ferocity of a two-legged polar bear-sized mountain of muscle, fur, and sheer aggression, even though you know you are already dead, you fear for your existence. It doesn't shatter your identity. It doesn't have you mistaking it for anything other than what it is, the specter of death. Yet you know that by not being shattered, by not being broken into a million pieces, that you are far worse for it. You will not forget what it looks like. You will not forget the blood sticking to its fur. You will not forget the sheer unbridled ferocity of what those lungs filled and expelled of air sound like. Wolves don't roar like tigers. Wolves don't sound like anything so clearly predatory. Yet that growl, howl, sound escaping it sounds very much like the roar of a tiger, letting the world know that it is over. While everyone believes that the king of the savannah, the royalty that are lions, are the king of the jungle, the truth of the matter is there's but one king of the jungle. There's but one predator that rules supreme, and that is the tiger and its landscape and its earth sign twin, the polar bear, and its landscape. And this thing puts both of those predatory monsters to shame. And unfortunately, in the press and rush of the crowds around you, in the realization what has been set free here is not an intellectual argument any longer. It is not the wariness of that's something dangerous. It is the full knowledge and acceptance that in a stand-up fight, even in a knockdown, unstand-up fight, the only win is dying quickly when facing that thing. The only victory is denying it the pleasure of your screams. The only way out is not this way. Fuck, these people are stupid. Why am I back here with them? Why? Fuck me. The way out is past it. It is working around it, hopefully not catching his attention, but there is very little chance that you will be fast enough to get there. Even as you see Haley's blonde hair slinking away with the few stragglers that have managed to get behind the beast, to be outside of its immediate area of attention. And as Haley is 5-6 paces from potentially making it out, she spies you, spying her with the beast, both versions of it, the four-legged, which is moving to your right, and the two-legged, which is slashing and tearing and rending. And you're sure that the sounds you hear above your head on the second floor are much the same. And though it goes without saying, the question is, what do you do?
So Haley is kind of, I see her kind of behind it, which means that's the way out. And it's pretty tall, you're saying. Would Soaring Leap clear its head and get behind it?
That's a good question. You're not sure what sort of hops it has. Would you attract his attention? There are all sort of different variables at play, and one can't know And this is just a long way of saying there's but one way to find out.
And Naya's not gonna go down without a fight. She's gonna try her absolute damnedest to get the fuck out of here with the people that she came with. So, soaring leap it is.
That being the case, be so kind as to go ahead and roll your strength plus athletics.
Do I still have the 2 dots from my previous strength roll?
No, but you can rouse again if you like.
Yep. And that just adds like a 1. That gives her the dice, but it just makes her hungrier, or does it like bump the hunger up way high?
Is it a rouse check? You can't be, so you'll fail a rouse check.
No, you can't.
Yeah, it was just a rouse check.
Yeah, that's exactly correct.
For housekeeping purposes, she has 1 willpower left, by the way.
Oh, you know, all you need, just like DOS, all you need is 1 mic, 1 willpower, you'll be fine. What's a little willpower between friends? Sometimes I get the feeling she's watching over me. Oh no! The application did not respond. That is not good. Maybe it's going down. Maybe too many people are using it tonight. There are records that Anaya breaks in the 2-step leap up and forward past the beast. Her motion quicker than most would ever be able to follow. There's a exhilarating feeling of floating through the air underneath your own power. As it's been said, flying is nothing more than falling with style. And the leap, its speed, its strength, is a thing to marvel at. The few unshattered minds not clawing for freedom through brick wall and not being crushed by the press and throng of the insanity of people responding as they would to a wild animal loosed in a party. Take notice of the speeding blur that is Anaya and Benji floating through the air. Seconds that feel like lifetimes, free from the grip of gravity. There, the indoor wind rifling through their hair, their clothes adding to the very real poetic beauty of a body in motion. And then it ends in pain. It happens faster and faster, as if time, temporarily frozen by the leap, suddenly speeds back into its normal sense of being. The leap, the slash of claw through flesh and bone, the tumbling sending you all askew, caterwauling through the air. Most people would only see the beast leap, seeming to move or grow and stretch longer without its feet ever leaving the ground. Most people, most beings aware of what happened, flinch and turn away as corded muscles with a tensile strength of steel slash through the air, striking its target, sending it off of its flight path, limbs spiraling out. The question is, in that grievous wounding and assault, did Anaya toss Benji free? What did Benji do watching destruction rush towards him? What did Haley do, if anything, watching Anaya and Benji be turned into a well-used and battered bocce ball.
Benji reacts to the situation exactly as he reacts to every situation. Panicking and screaming. Incoherently, I might add.
And so does Haley do what she always does, which is use the distraction to save herself.
And knowing that she probably won't make it out of this.
Uses Benji as a shield.
So is Benji for the door? No.
All right. That being the case, would you be some kind of go ahead and roll your strength plus melee. 3 successes is dead on tossed impact. Lower than that, higher than that will determine how close to the door, how far off target that your throw actually is. We need to settle the damage of the impact, the claw strike that ripped through Anaya, and the difference is 2 plus the 2 for the claw. That gives a total of 4 unhalved superficial damage that tears through her as she is batted through the air. Where does that place her health?
Two whole and then superficial. You said strength and what?
Strength and melee. She's going to throw him like a javelin as she caterwauls and twists and turns and is batted aside in the air. There's, upon death, a slackening of pain. Upon death, the transmogrification of a living entity into an unliving immortal corpse, the pains of the physical and emotional lighten. You don't feel anything as succinctly as the living. It has its benefits and it has its bans, because in not feeling so many things so directly, it gives way by simple practice to a level of monstrousness, a level of callousness, a level of selfishness that one doesn't even notice any longer. The concerns outside of the self don't really register nearly as much because you don't feel things as personally, as directly, as vibrantly. Everything pales outside of the consumption of the life of another entity. Outside of the kiss, outside of consumption, everything else is dimmer. Everything else is grayer, colder. Normally. The 3 of 5 claws that managed to tear through Naya's flesh send a burning, crystallized, pure form of pain that she has not ever experienced through her. The burst of Vitae-tinged tears staining her cheeks immediately through the pain, obscuring her vision as she tumbles through the air. As she understands what the stick or tennis ball used to play fetch feels like. She understands the terror of the mouse being swatted by the cat. She feels all of those things like she has never felt much else since dying. And as she tumbles and cartwheels and finally nears the ground, with every ounce of determination left to her, she flings Benji like a javelin. And as Haley is pushing and gliding and ducking to get free of the place, to escape back out into the dark night, Benji lands just before her, dragging her and the three others nearest her down into the ground, into a pile of limb and fear, as everyone is attempting to get through the door at very nearly the exact same time. 15 feet behind them, the crash and slam of Anaya breaking through the bar and tipping over chairs, swatted aside incidentally through her own trajectory, and the attack that severed her distance from pain. And the cries and screams continue. The truth of the matter is, the very painful truth of the matter is, that blow was a mortal one. That blow would have destroyed any of the several, at this point, 30 or so left living individuals inside the club. Those who have not managed to leap out of the upstairs windows, those who have not managed to bar themselves in the office, those who have not managed to run into the freezer and into the cooler where they keep the beer, liquor, and the few food items being offered. 30 or so individuals running from the bears which managed to get inside the club. They're not sure how it happened or why the bear is high on cocaine, but it is very clear that those bears are fucking angry. And while it goes without saying, what do?
Looking for the car?
So Benji scrabbles and begins untangling limbs and to get further and through the door, to actually make it fully out of this place, out of this hellhole, to just run without looking back.
Yes.
Haley, Anaya.
Haley's plan is the GTFO.
Wait, Benji doesn't know where you guys parked. Never mind. He's just running.
Understandable. Anaya, the broken furniture, broken bar all around you and through portions of your clothing, and the taste leaking and stinging and sticking to your body. What do?
She's gonna do what she can to, again, try to leave, but she doesn't make it. She doesn't make it. And she's, anything that attacks her, she's attacking back. Make it quick.
So the tumbling, the falling, the running, the escaping, the screaming into the night that fills the parking lot, that snarls the traffic there, that has people running and fleeing. It's such a chaotic maelstrom of activity. Folks don't even have out their phone. That lets you know how desperate and determined the folks who've managed to make it out and are attempting to continue making it out. Those who are leaping out of the window from the second story of the building, those who are crawling out onto the roof and risking the jump, not the hang from the edge and drop and pray to not snap an ankle, but the full-on run, arms flailing, trying to skywalk their way out of the crushing crash of gravity and the earth. Escape. It is as chaotic as it was inside. But there's a slowness, a flow of things. The building is emptying in every way that those who can scrabble and break and run and free themselves can empty. The music only adding insult to injury, because as these beings, living and dead, flee the building for in real dire fear of their existence, the bass is still going. The lights and neons are still strobing. The neighbors in the area, the few who can see and have been bombarded by the sounds of the club, don't notice any difference. It's just another night, with the club being an eyesore, with the noise pollution that it generates in the area, just more of the same. So while people are screaming and yelling and oh my god, oh my god, oh, the neighbors who have grown accustomed to the noise pollution of the club don't even notice. They don't even care. Many of them have grown accustomed to the sounds of its bass to the point where it is a lullaby to them. Instead of it rousing them from their sleep or disturbing their snores, it helps them sleep and helps them. The plight of life, the jeopardy in the offing, not so much as enough of a disturbance to have most even turn over or flip their pillow to the cool side. As the kindred inside who didn't make it out enjoy the last few seconds of their existence, of their immortality, feeling something for the first time directly, you all and the few handfuls of people running, screaming, leaping, crashing, and crawling from the building are embraced by the cool, clear, Gary night. All amidst the sound of While Benji doesn't know where you've all parked, Haley does. Haley has the key. While Anaya knows where you all parked, the question is, do you all rendezvous there or call out to Benji, who's attempting to beat feet, spank planks, and just run screaming into the night like most of those who are caught up in the log jam of cars that's trying to escape the parking lot?
I didn't know that Anaya had made it outside, but if she does, she would yell towards him, running to get him to come towards her and head to Haley.
Haley, Benji.
As soon as I get up. Go ahead. As soon as Haley gets outside, she goes for her car.
No one directed him. He's running likely in a random direction.
No, and I did call out to him.
And I,
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little out of it right now. You'll follow Anaya then.
How old is Haley's car?
It is a 2020 Kia Rio.
Okay, so when she hits the latch on the driver's side, all the doors are unlocked and she hops in, taking it that she immediately guns the gas. The question is, where is she aiming? Her nose filled with the go-juice from Anaya, the floor water from the restroom that sticks to Benji, the scent of fear burned into her nostril hairs, and the image of that thing etched into the folds of her mind. Where does she head, and is she careful enough to not run over the fleeing, screaming people crossing the street and running in various directions, seeking the freedom and escape of the madness that was inside?
Well, unless she's in immediate peril, she will attempt to not hit pedestrians. Other than that, she might actually head for Chicago. How far is Chicago Drive?
She could make it fairly easily from where they are into Chicago with no risk of the sun being a real consideration.
Yeah, she'll probably do that. I'm sure she's from, or came to Gary from Chicago as a vampire, so she's got to know some people there other than her sire, though given the stress of the situation, if her sire is the only viable option, that's where she's going.
Okay. So the question at that point, because there are several ways to do so, she can of course try to avoid the tolls by going over 90 up 94 and approaching Chicago more directly from the south, or she can simply stay on the 90 all the way in. Now the two things make a real difference because, well, 90 west is a toll route and it is always busy. There's cars flying back and forth across 90 from Chicago, from the southern suburbs in and around Chicago into Gary all the time. Whereas avoiding as much as she can of 90, taking I-80 west onto the Dan Ryan and north, gives her the opportunity of potentially calming mentally to make her way there safely and avoid as much of the traffic on 90 as possible, and the toll roads as well.
Yeah, the avoiding traffic and calming effect seems to be the way to go.
So burning south of the club and hopping on 80 and taking that into the 94 into the Dan Ryan and north into the city is what she does. In the mad flight of people from the club, from this moment, from the animal attack that you are sure will be all over Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram later. People telling their story because no one had their camera out. The few people who did were taking pictures of their drink. There's no way to explain the shake or the drop or the blur. There's no way to explain what happened. There was a madness gripping everyone. But of course, that's to be expected. A bear was sighted in a Gary club. Already knowing how media does what media does. It's roughly just under an hour, right at 45 minutes, taking I-80 onto the Dan Ryan and making your way into Chicago. And while 45 minutes is a long time, it's never long enough to shake off the madness you've all been privy to. But it does give you all the opportunity to communicate, to talk, and especially as taking I-80 west to the Dan Ryan and then north, as Gary natives, as Indiana natives, you all passing the schools and the neighborhoods and the various aspects of Indiana, it is definitely something that stands out in easy recognition as to what is happening. There's only so far west you can go and still remain in Indiana. There's only so far south you can go to get to 80 and still be in Gary. It's impossible for the denizens of the vehicle to not know that you all aren't going to any of your previous homes. Haley lives northeast of there. Anaya lives almost directly east of there. And Benji flops from couch to couch, but his general fallback is north and slightly west of where you all are. So each of you know you're no longer in Gary fairly quickly.
I think Anaya would be kind of quiet. She literally almost died again. There's still probably bleeding going on. She's holding herself together. And she's just happy to be out of there, so there's not a lot of chattiness to her right now.
Yeah, even Haley is pretty quiet as she white knuckles the steering wheel.
Benji is still processing and decompressing.
So it's a quiet, introspective drive. The sound of the tires on the road being the soundtrack to their present moment of existence. Driving in Chicago, in and around the south suburbs, down into Indiana, is in fact a contact sport. And not even the close calls and the occasionally violent swerving between lines, between lanes of the various vehicles you all pass and accompany, shakes you out of that moment, shakes you out of the sound of the wheels on the pavement, of the tires blending in and droning on, the occasional flash of lights via the rear view mirror and the side view mirrors as vehicles move in and out of the lane. The only accompaniment visually, because it is a quite boring of a view, taking the drive from the 80 into Chicago. It's just more of the same. the neighborhoods looking more and more alike, and then more and more dissimilar as you cross the border, as you move through the south suburbs, the low slung squat homes, the 2 and 3 story walk-ups. Is there a particular neighborhood or particular associate that Haley is aiming towards in regards to seeking safety?
If she has any herd there still, or some sort of other kindred she may have associated with. If not, then she begrudgingly goes to her sires.
Well, being a member of the party circuit, being a rose of note, the getting on the Dan Ryan via the 80 means that you'd be passing through all of the south suburbs, you know, making it through Lansing, all the way up through East Hazel Crest, down through South Holland as the 90 swerves and swirls through that area. Through that area, there are several larger party centers. There's the Pisketeers. They're off of off of Highway 1, not far from Lincoln, where you know for a fact that tons and tons of Toreador are. There's the chiffon opening that was supposed to be happening sometime this week, so you know that's going to be a mecca. After all, that's Silk's establishment. Moving on up through, there's several. There's Aicha, who has the party house out there on 107th. You'd have to get off the expressway. Either they're at the 111th exit, or you'd have to go all the way to, what's that, 100th, where you merge off onto State Street and take that south. But otherwise, as you make your way into the city with the party circuit, there's a huge rave party area that happens out near Chatham. There's a former lover of Annabelle who had a party house over in Inglewood. There's several places that she knows are party centrals, safe Toreador sponsored party centrals and associates that her herd floats and flows through, while the Bahari aren't throwing free eats and free get together as they try to enroll people into their way of thinking. Her herd is still part of that party circuit, those big bacchanalias that take 2 and 3 days to come down from. So it's a question as to would she risk some of her associates in the south suburbs still close enough to Gary that she can get home in an hour or two, or would she drive further into the city? Would she break the demarcation line of actually being part and party to the city? Would she go north of 79th Street and actually into the city, or would she hang out in the south suburbs?
Whatever option she feels like affords her the best chance of sanctuary, at least for the day.
Oh, that's easy. If that was the case, Genghis, everybody says that he's Bruja, but she's never really seen anything about him that says Bruja. At best, he's a posier member of the Roses, because everything he owns is tailor-made. Everything he owns is several hundred or several $1,000s. Even the guns and stupid tough guy shtick that he puts on are, in fact, top of the line in regards to build, craftsmanship, and the like. And he runs a party circuit with a flop available to any kindred who are part of the party. And he's, they're off of Milwaukee, just past the prop house. So that's north of the south suburb, north of the demarcation line, and well past much of what is viewed as the power of Chicago. Like the high-ranking members of Primogen of the government are all through there. So whatever is in your rear view, whatever is in your shadow from the club would have to make it through all of that to get to you if you go towards Genghis's party house and flop on the north side of Chicago.
Well, as much of a tool as Genghis is, that's a better option for her than dealing with her sire. So that is where she will steer.
And for that, you can stay right on the expressway until you get well past North Avenue, and then you can hop off and make your way west towards Milwaukee, giving you the opportunity to, well, establish a distance and establish a sense of safety before getting off into the insanity of driving on Chicago streets. The expressway takes you through the center of downtown, the 9094, giving you the opportunity of looking out your window and seeing Carnival and various other clubs along the side of the expressway as you make your way north. Even on the expressway, you can tell the difference between the social stratas of the city. The 2-story, occasionally 3-story homes starting to give way to the 5 to 20-story buildings as you make your way through the downtown, make your way through the loop, make your way out of the downtown area and onto the north side. Somewhere around Division, you actually merge off of the 9094 and make your way west towards Milwaukee to take that right on into the Wicker Park area. In the doing, as you pass through Noble Square and East Village and slide northwest through the city, a sense of just how big the city is in comparison to Gary falls into place. A sense that this city is in fact still alive versus Gary existing in its permanent state of death falls into place. Anaya, Benji, have you all ever been in Chicago directly, or have you all always existed in Gary?
Anaya would have never have been to Chicago.
There's a difference. There's a difference of night and day. The Chantry in Gary is actually on the college campus. So you hear about people talking about Chicago and, you know, getting up there one day for a party. But the closest you guys have probably come as college students there at Purdue, they're off campus there in Gary, would probably have been the south suburbs, because just crossing the border, Lansing for years had been a party burb. It's literally right there on the border between Illinois and Indiana. It's close enough to count, but far enough away to be wholly different. It has its own airport, it has its own central business district, and it's busy enough to and alive enough to be a taste of Chicago, to be a taste of urbanized area. So Lansing, people from Lansing tell everyone that they're from Chicago, just like everyone from Glenwood says they're from Chicago, just like everyone from Flossmoor says they're from Chicago. But it's not Chicago. It is the south suburbs. It's close enough to spit on, close enough by a crow's fly, but it is a completely different thing, being bombarded with the life and vibrancy still in effect at this hour of the evening. It is a shock to the senses. The difference of a whole city that lives by night. Not just pockets and businesses and get-togethers and chill sessions, but a full, vibrant city. There is no way to put a finger on it, but there's a pulse that is beating through you with the lights and the sound and the fact that there are still hundreds of flights taking off and landing overhead as you see the planes flying northwest of your location cross the expressway towards O'Hare, or flying directly east towards Meigs Field, or flying southwest towards Midway. It is, even with the craziness of the drivers, even with the constant, every few minutes, a siren going off, or you see flashing lights moving or rushing across the path, it is the antithesis to the death that is omnipresent everywhere throughout Gary. It is a shot of adrenaline after coming down from seeing your immortality flash across your eyes.
That would hit Anaya pretty profoundly and cause a bit of uncomfortable laughter, but also tears. So she's crying and laughing at the same time.
Haley will look over at her and say, I'm just trying to get us somewhere safe. We can figure the rest out later.
Thank you for that. It makes me not want to go to any more parties, and I never thought I'd fucking say that ever.
No, we've not had much luck with those, at least in Gary.
If I didn't have the claw marks to prove it, I would have thought I was fucking hallucinating. Did we accidentally walk into a lupine trap?
It's kind of what it seemed like.
Considering how many there were in there, I think so.
You should probably do something about all that damage. Or are you too hungry?
You need some blood? You can have some of mine if you do. And thanks for saving me.
I think I can hold off a little longer, but I probably should try to heal this, and she will try to heal at least whatever superficial she can with a roll. One roll.
Okay, make it happen. While the vibrancy of the city is easily overwhelming for most beings who are able to feel the ebb and flow of life, to be bombarded with the brightness and lightness and the activity. All of that preparation, the driving from the over the expressway and the moving through the city and getting off and even taking and the walking down is another matter entirely. None of it matters nearly at all in comparison. Because taking Milwaukee down, you eventually come to Six Corners. Now, Six Corners is only one of a few places in the city where three major streets, three major avenues, boulevards meet. They are always absolute death traps for pedestrians and drivers, and it's a hub of activity. Three major streets crash into one another, with the elevated blue line adding to the soundtrack of chaos in the area. Damon, North, and Milwaukee crash and collide just south of where Gingus's flop, just south of where Gingus's almost non-stop immortal party circuit is. And while the rest of the city was a gentle wake up, it was the sound of a rooster crowing in the distance. It's the sound of a quiet, nice, polite alarm vibrating with, "Where you go up in the street?" No, it's none of that. Getting to Six Corners is having a marching band kick open your door after flash banging the environment. Getting to Six Corners is the difference between running your tongue across a battery and jamming a fork into an electric outlet. Getting to Six Corners, the difference between the life and vibrancy of the city that you've witnessed thus far and getting to Six Corners is literally night and day. Already you've passed about 9 or 10 different bars and nightclubs that are in the offing. People are leaving, people are hanging out on the outside, smoking, people are being people. Nice, vibrant, late people. And then you get to Six Corners and it jumps exponentially 20 scales of measure higher. There's the train rushing by every 15 minutes to a half an hour. There are hundreds of actual full-fledged cabs speeding and flying through the area, competing with the Uber, Lyft, and other rideshare services in the area. It's so competitive that many of the cab companies, the Allied, American, Yellow, Checker, Limousine Livery Service, all also have Uber and Lyft stickers or lights in their window, double timing both the cab and Uber and Lyft at the exact same time. There's a bus that runs north and south along Damon Avenue, and it reaches that corner like clockwork every 25 to 45 minutes. There's another bus that runs east and west along North Avenue, doing much the same thing. And throughout all of that steady, scheduled chaos of public transportation is the ebb and flow of people moving from Chativa Cafe, from the Flatiron Building, from the No Bones Beach Club, which is just east of where you are. There's Speakeasy Custom Tattoos, which is open all night. You have cinemas, private theaters that are letting people out with small plastic cups of wine and cigars. You have people going to the hot dog stand, which is there just on the west side of Damon, down a few steps into what should be a basement, but instead is a thriving Greasy Spoon restaurant serving up Chicago-style dogs and Polishes all night. On both sides of North Avenue, starting from Damon going east to west, are bar after nightclub after bar after nightclub after speakeasy after theater after tattoo parlor after restaurant. It is a hub of entertainment. It is such a garish location that while everyone knows that prostitution is illegal and frowned upon and socially unacceptable. They're honest to goodness streetwalkers in their best, most attractive regalia. Form-fitting leather pants and tastefully tailored shirts and jackets and skirts and high heels and big hair and bright makeup, and zooming through the area as every 6th or 7th car is a marked or unmarked police car. There's ambulances parked waiting for the outflow of people who've had too much to imbibe in the area. It is a madhouse.
Having managed to heal one superficial, it brings her to 3 dots of health and 3 dots of halved health. And she went for the most pressing wound so that she's not leaking vitae anymore.
And it's a good thing as well. No one wants to be leaking vitae on a night like this when the pickings are so abundant. You can smell the inebriation and the chemical happiness through the car windows. You can feel the pulse and ebb of actual life as you all stagger, stutter behind the traffic making its way through 6 corners.
Assuming we're roughly where we need to go, Haley will find somewhere to park, a lot or a garage, somewhere where she can leave the car for a while.
Well, that's funny you should mention it. Once you make it just cross north, about 1/8 of a block, a little bit more than that, maybe about 1/4 of a block or half a block down, on the south side of Milwaukee, there's a parking structure. It's odd if you haven't been to the area because it doesn't look like your typical parking structure. There's actual glass in the windows. From the street, it looks like a bank building, like an old large bank building from the heady days when Art Deco was all the rage. There's gilded leaves and bountiful cornucopias in various places along the building, and the building has cornices that look like they were half-formed gargoyles. It's good old-fashioned, shiny, almost plastic-looking white brick from that time period, but it is in fact a parking garage. You make that left and take your chances down what looks like a murder alley, and you make the sharp-ish right into the building, and you're able to follow the ramp up and around inside behind the glass into any of the numerous parking slots available. One of the reasons why people don't use this parking facility is because it is effectively very high price comparatively. Oftentimes it's better to risk taking a chance with a boot or a ticket than pay their exorbitant rates. But safe is safe.
Figures she'll sort that out later, having a way with people and all. But she needs to know when she comes back to her car that it will be there, rather than towed or booted.
And just like that, you all are able to exhale. The pressures of what led you here slowly dissipating. It's amazing how resilient the mind is. It's amazing how resilient you all are even as you are very much still beings, not human anymore, but definitely still existing in this world. And as you all settle into the parking slip, there's a moment. The car ticks down and finally stops all of its internal motion. You all are in Chicago. You've all come what feels like thousands of miles to get here. And getting to this place is from where you all are. If you were so gauche as to run, take a flying leap off the top of the building and fly across the street, 3 doors down on the north side of Milwaukee from where you all are parked.
Haley will go to the hatch and get Anaya a hoodie or a shirt or something so that she's not wearing shredded, obvious gaping wound clothing. It might not fit well, but it won't be shredded.
She will gratefully accept. I mean, the pants are on trend with the rips, so she'll leave those as is. But not feeling a bit shy, seeing how only moments before she almost had her guts hanging out, she will take off the tattered shirt and pull on the sweatshirt.
Fits like a pair of isotoners. The difference in roundness and volume of flesh is quite obvious. Instead of it being a baggy boyfriend style hoodie on Anaya, it's a slim fit, form-fitting sweater, showing off bosom and roundness of shoulders, as well as just the sheer difference in terms of volume between Anaya and Haley. And Benji, having never disconnected, having never unplugged, would you be so kind as to roll your resolve plus aspects for me?
Difficulty?
As high as you can.
Okay.
Even with his experience being victimized by his gifts, because that's what they are, they're gifts. There are things given to you without you purchasing or paying for them. Though in Benji's case, he pays for them nightly, whereas during his living years, he paid for them daily. The thin line between insanity and genius being one that is relatively non-existent for him. Sensing, feeling, hearing, understanding the dead is no place for a sane person to be. Yet it's literally all he's ever known. It's all he's ever tried to self-medicate and escape. Chicago is the city of the dead. Literally. The present Chicago is built upon the bones of the recent past. And that Chicago was built upon the ashes of the previous Chicago. And so forth and so on. If you were able to see the layers of the city It looked like rings of a tree, showing new growth and where the forest died and where there was a catastrophic spring, but one can't, not normally. But Benji isn't normal. And so as Anaya changes and settles into fresh clothing, visually erasing the very real almost end of their immortality, Benji comes to the grips with the fact that Chicago, for all of its vibrancy, for all of its non-stop motion, is a city of the dead. He does this because as Anaya is changing, and out of some vestigial remembrance of social mores and ethics, he casts his eyes aside. He doesn't close them. He doesn't cover them. He just looks slightly away. And in the doing, there's the gentle tapping on the window on the driver's side of the car. This older bag man. Everyone has the image of a bag lady strolling through the streets with a shopping cart full of this, that, and the other, all of their earthly belongings neatly and reverentially packed inside the cart. This is the male version of that. Of that. Gnarled gray hair, a beard that is as long as it is wispy, the haggard look of resignation, of accepting the day as it is, all over his face. Combined with the gaping, sucking chest wound that is not leaking any blood, it lets Benji know that he is in fact looking at a deceased spirit which has had the strength to crawl across the veil, to tear through the shroud, to be here tonight as well. Here is better than other places. And as it knocks on the window gently, being as he has always been aware and able to sense and hear and see that world, staring into that elderly face that has survived at that point many, many winters after the big one, the second time around, the sequel. He realizes what he's looking at. He understands what he's dealing with. He knows the fact that he can hear this particular spirit means that it is strong enough to have an identity that is true to its idea of itself. And as it knocks and opens its hand as if asking for change, there's the old aphorism: the more things change, the more they stay the same.
I'll give him one of those Hot Wheels.
And so it begins. Those Hot Wheels are filled with the remembrances and information pertaining to several things across the area. And he grants it into the hands of something that, for all intents and purposes, is beyond needing to decipher certain things. It will just flow into them. And as Benji is looking into the middle space of nowhere, dealing with something that is neither visible nor actually there, what do y'all do? Genghis is 3 doors down on the north side of Milwaukee. His place is still in relatively hopping distance. And is still active. He is still the host with the most. His crowd of punks and outsiders, his herd and intermingled beings from various other herds of various social scenes across the city. has always been a problem for many of the anarchs of Gary to wrap their head around. Genghis is an anarch, yet unlike the many run out of the city, unlike the many hunted into extinction, he manages to flout the very rules of the city that he enjoys. He's loud and brash and something of a jackass. But unlike every other anarch, he is able to survive right underneath the nose of one of the most powerful primogens in the area, if not the country.
And I mean, she might have heard of him in passing, but she's never met him. So that would be beyond her. I don't know. But if it's your choice between sitting in the car and getting moving, she would want to get moving.
Haley will get out of the car. Time's a wasting.
Yeah, it's a paddling. Does she snap her fingers? Does she get everyone's attention? It's clear that Anaya wants to move on. Benji is engaged, or potentially engaged, with something unseen and present. What do you all do?
And I looked at Haley. Well, obviously, you kind of know where we're going, so which way do we go? Benji, come on, we're leaving. We're going somewhere. And she's like snapping her fingers at him.
You'll just give the old man a nod and follow.
There's
All right, so go ahead.
No, go on. I was just going to describe the old man saying goodbye.
All right, so it's just across the street here. It's a guy. I don't know him very well, but I do know him, and he will probably remember me. He often offers safe space to those who he deems cool, and of course, why would he not deem us such?
Fair enough. And I will take her hair. It's already ruined out of a ponytail, so she takes it out of the ponytail and kind of fluffs it and tries to, I guess, add to her appearance, knowing they need to look cool.
Indeed. And problematically so. Because as you all exit the parking structure, you are the definition of the odd squad. You are various different genres of outsiders blended together into one homogeneous whole. Stylish and just at the edge of style and uncaring of whichever style the hodgepodge dress is. You all cross Milwaukee, which is still unfortunately extraordinarily active. To your left, as you make your way across the street, you all know that Concord Place is just as dirty socially and ethically as you've all incidentally heard. There are places in Chicago where even bad people don't go, and that's definitely one of those places as you all make your way across the street, heading towards the house that has flashing lights on the upper floor. There's several stores on the lower level of the building. This, that, and the other. Nothing really important, nothing really intriguing, nothing that catches the eye and makes you sit up and take notice. It is clearly the things that people who have more money than time would purchase, just to fill their space and make it seem as if they have a home that is actually their home. And the stairs leading up are, it's almost straight up. It feels as if you're climbing a ladder, how steep the stairs are. And it's amazing that the drunk people that you're passing, who are giving you head nods or stylishly or purposely coolly ignoring you because they're more important, because they're cooler than you guys are. Who, have you seen them before? I don't know who they are. What the fuck? I don't care. And while the club you all left was a frenetic thing, several handfuls of people doing their best to be seen and to see. This is intimate and far more vibrant than it should be. When you get to the second story of the building, the door is open. There are people smoking in the hallway. The few people you pass on the stairs leading up, not particularly indicative of one thing or another. You see some who are clearly dressed to be part of the underground hip-hop community, the rap community, the metal community. It is a group of scenes all compiled and mixing and conflating together. And then you make it into the apartment, which is actually a condo that stretches the length of the building. And there's an honest to goodness 3-man band playing in the living room area of this condo. There's garbage styled furniture. It looks as if it's things that were found on the sidewalk or in the dumpster. But as a toreador, as a person who's been involved with money, even incidentally, you know that these are museum quality hand designed pieces that are clearly worth more than most of everything people are wearing. It is purposely designed to look used and distressed and found, but these are pieces that cost upwards of $2,500, $4,500, $5,000 for that table that looks like it was put together from milk crates. And while it's being treated, people are sitting their drinks there, people are sitting on it, people are doing all sorts of things while the furniture is being treated as if it was found outside, as if it was upcycled. There's a shameful part of Haley that finds it disrespectful that they are disrespecting the art, because that's what these pieces were, that's what these pieces are. It's shameful to not respect their host, especially when she sees someone putting a cigarette, and not even just an actual store-bought cigarette, but a clove out on one of their tables as they're leaning and talking and leaving drink rings here and there, and they're actually drinking out of honest to goodness red Solo styled cups. Solo stopped making red cups 10 years ago because of his connection with overindulgence and youth culture. They grew to a large enough business that their cups are blue and yellow and green, but never red these days.
Haley will scowl at the disrespect we given, but not actually do anything about it because it's probably too widespread for her to go confront any one person. On top of that, she's got bigger things on her mind.
Having been to several frat parties throughout the course of his life, Benji knows. Yeah, that's it. Benji knows. These are moneyed mommies and daddies kids who have been grown accustomed to spending their parents' money. While yeah, the clothes are dirty, unkept. It's dirty and unkept in that way that betrays they bought it that way. They purposely didn't tend to their hair to add to the look of being one of the average peoples. And while it wasn't as widespread during his college days, as he's been part of the Gary party circuit long enough, he can smell money as a clear sign of inauthenticity. And it's clogging his nose. It's filling his sinuses. It's causing an emotional headache. Because these people, these kids, probably in the last 3 months spent more than he ever made during his college tenure. These people wasted more money than he's seen in these last few years of being dead, and will do so in the next 3 months and then the next 3 months after that. And while they're dressed to seem as if they're crud punk and street kids and disadvantaged in one way or another financially, he smells the money as if someone burned popcorn in a microwave. And Haley, no, I'm sorry, Anaya, being part of the social media movement, because it is a movement, it's a zeitgeist. She recognizes smaller influencers. There's the girl who samples greasy, goes out of her way to dangerous neighborhoods to sample greasy spoons, little known secrets throughout the city and the suburbs. There's the guy who has DJ parties in his mom's bathrobe in the bathroom. Oh yeah, there's the two that have that skit about being married since grade school. They're school husband and school wives. Oh yeah, and then the 3-person band, you recognize them because they make punk renditions of top 40s popular music using antique musical instruments. And then there's that rapper that makes a hip-hop version of gospel songs on his stream.
Oh, very proud.
What was that?
And I would remark to Haley, well, this is quite the eclectic crowd.
I feel like I should just go hide in the sewers. Or dumpster.
I don't know that you want to do that here.
I'll take your word for it.
Look, you're the real deal, and they're just trying to be you, but richer.
Let's just find Genghis. And she'll walk over to one of these partiers, get their attention and say, hello, have you seen Genghis?
Oh, I love! How are you? boss, you uncle. I'm Billy. And yes, it is that horrible of a purposeful put on English accent. It is clear that he feels or believes that he is the class clown, and he gets to talk shit and rib or joke at anyone. It makes sense that as you were walking over, you caught the quick flash of a roll of an eye with the person, well, the two girls that he was talking to. It is clear that he is that guy. He's the one that is purposely going to make himself feel he looks better by poking fun at everyone.
Well, isn't that lovely? Can you just point me in the right direction, Chad?
I'm not a Chad. I didn't put my fist through any drywall, bro. Whoa! And you hear, cut that shit out! Looking over you guys' shoulder, you see I think this is about 6'1", 6'2". He has all of the look of someone who takes care of themselves physically or who has done hard labor. The truth of the matter is he has not. He has a safety pin through one ear, and he has a bright red mohawk, which has sentimental value, but he keeps having to have it done every night upon resurrecting for the evening. Most nights he will have it shaved completely bare, but on nights where he's feeling sentimental, he'll shave it into a mohawk and dye it red after his friend and associate from back during the good old days, the bad old days. And his jacket, his very, very classic leather punk jacket with various patches and pins, and not safety pins, but actual pins from the late 80s. There's Michael Jackson and Thriller and Anthrax and Anarchy and several other bands all over it. It is in fact, despite its authenticity, not vintage. It's purchased that way. And then the piercings throughout his face, which again are done nightly, and a tattoo of a sword under his ear across the back of his skull. The one, the only, the indefatigably best of the best of the best of the best that is in fact Genghis. As he moves through the crowd, a swagger practiced in the mirror for long hours several nights out of the week, so that he has a right balance of menace and sensuality to his stride. The swaying of the shoulders, the right flow of elbow to knee speed, the pausing at just the right moment to be properly framed by the environment.
Haley will rush towards him and crash into him and wrap her arms around him.
Anaya recognizing game because that's some shit she would do, just stands there and gives him a amazing.
Genghis is an asshole, but it's all about the image. That's what's important to him. That much is obvious in the fact that he immediately gives in, wraps his arm around like you guys are long lost friends that haven't seen each other in years. Like, oh my God. And the show that you all managed to put on impresses just about everyone. It feels very much like they're buying the idea of that either camaraderie or forgotten romance as you all make your way through the crowd and out the back before you head to his actual personal storage space, his living space, his haven space, his flop space. Once you all exit the actual party and hole up in the back bedroom, his questions are, of course, fairly simple. While he's brilliant at social manipulation, he is very much an asshole and very much unskilled with actual politics. So, this question, of course, what the fuck are you doing here?
Oh my god, Gary is such a shithole. Not once, but twice we've had to deal with bloody lupines. And I can't anymore. I should have never left Chicago.
Now we're taking it that introductions were done with Anaya and Benji, and they were vouchsafed as good upstanding anarchs, right?
It was choice.
I mean, probably not. Amy's more concerned about her own plight than introducing her conlance. I assumed that, however, he would ask who these people are before he brought us into his inner sanctum.
No, he can't shoot you in public, but he can shoot you in private. Again,
One word. Giggity.
socially manipulative, borderline genius in that regards, but not very smart. Genghis is, in fact, very much an asshole. He has some political acumen, but not enough to be truly dangerous to anyone who knows what they're doing.
These are all my friends. They came with me. They were at the same party I was, where the shit all went south rather quickly. This is Anaya, and that's Benji. Benji's a little spooky.
Oh god, he's not one of them fucking Giacatas, is he? With the ghosts and the spirits and the shit that's going down in the university right now?
Yes and no.
There you have it, then.
Fuck me, man. Seriously? I don't fuck with you guys. Tell me you're not bringing that shit over here. You're not running from one of the fucking Rasa whatever, are you?
I'm mostly just running from Lupine's guy. And ghosts are everywhere. You can't escape them.
To the best of my knowledge, we don't have any of the Giacatas doing much of anything in Gary.
Yeah, them fuckers are everywhere lately. So, let me guess. You ain't set up digs yet, have you?
I've been here literally 20 minutes. I don't want to contact Cameron.
Why? You guys are kicking shit since the reorganization of territories and shit. Annabelle's got you guys marching like fucking armies. He's one of her main generals out on the streets right now.
Right, he and I don't get along very good anymore.
Yeah. Shame. Probably gonna get along a lot worse considering. Nah, don't worry about that bullshit. Don't need a place to stay. This is good for you. The shelter guys left about a week ago, but I got some space downstairs.
As long as it's safe, whatever you've got would be appreciated.
Safe? Come on. Is anybody gonna fuck with me? I own this town.
She will look at the other two and nod. He does.
Anaya is pretty good at reading people, and she's been kind of watching him loosely this whole time. What is this bravado and stuff telling her?
Yeah, about the same.
Would you be so kind as to either roll your wits and intuition or your wits and subterfuge?
You mean insight, not intuition?
Insight, sorry. Sorry about that.
Haley will play into his ego and agree that he is the leader of and the anarchs in Chicago.
Excuse me. Alright, starting with the dual successes. What you pick up from Genghis. The only authentic thing about anything that he said is his belief in its authenticity. You know, this person that kind of sort of have to talk them their way into what they believe the truth is, and they practice believing what that truth is by constantly telling them themselves that's exactly what he's doing. His accidental slips of information are purposeful slips that he's pretending are accidental to gauge someone else's response. He literally thinks he's slicker than an oil can. He believes that he's the smartest person in the room because he has told himself that he's the smartest person in the room, and he keeps telling himself he's the smartest person in the room by doing clearly unsmart things such as lying to his guests. The room, the space is probably 100% safe, but most of his slips, most of his bravado is just that, bravado. And that 3 successes, there's nothing real about him, save the space is safe. He really is an anarch, and he really believes what he's telling himself that he needs to believe, because he's telling himself that, not that is actually factual outside of this space. He's the sort of person that is a good friend so long as he's never proven to be lying to himself, and by extension the world.
So definitely safer to know he's lying, but just not call him on that bullshit.
Yeah. It's the sort of lies that are not malicious because they start with the self. Sort of lies that help him create a legend that he can believe in about himself. They're the sort of lies that he tells himself to help survive whatever it is that he feels that he's not worthy of having survived.
And I kind of looks at Haley and smiles and nods, and looks at Genghis. That's so cool. Unfortunately, the last leader we had got killed by a pig monster thing. Well, it was a vampire that turned into a pig monster thing, but still, I mean, like, you're pretty cool.
Yeah. I used to, like, before the shelter got big enough to do what they're doing up there now, I was like that go-to person. Like, they were really wanting to be anarchists, but they weren't really cool enough, you know what I mean? Like, I had to teach them a few things, and you know what happens when you teach someone something, they go off and they put their own little spin on it. Kind of the same way with Damien, but it was just too hot in the kitchen. That's the reason why he started working with Jackson and became the sheriff, you know? Because, you know, I knew him when he was just a musician.
whole time he's talking, Haley won't be sidled up to him being all touchy and flirty.
Does Anaya know Baby Chorus?
Yes.
I mean, she... Oh my god, you know Damien? That's so fucking cool!
Yeah, I know his sire too. The old man down in Hyde Park. Like, nobody else knew. But I knew. I've caught that early on when he was hanging out with Nico and all of them little crud punks. So yeah, so you guys need a place to flop. I got you. Look, down those stairs goes all the way down to the basement. There ain't no window, ain't no lights. You guys can crash out there, but you know you're cool to hang out at the party until you guys ready to go die for the day.
No, thanks for the last party we went to. She kind of lifts her shirt enough to show him the fucking claw.
Hey, yeah. Oh, shit.
Right, bloody loopholes.
They didn't follow you, did you?
They'd have had to run really fast for a long time.
Oh, you ain't heard? The motherfuckers got patrols, even with the treaty in place. They be up and down the damn Ryan. I saw, I heard that, one of the shelters pissed them off, and so, like, it's all on site now. Like, they'll keep the treaty just long once you cross past Central Park, or well, Harlem, really. But once you cross Harlem, or once you cross 79th Street, it's all on and popping.
I know that the one that
must not heard about a treaty.
Yeah, Gary's not really part of the treaty.
I know the one that came after me doesn't remember I exist.
Well, that's a good thing, but what about his friends? They don't travel by themselves. There's usually like 5 or 6 of them, what I heard, what I remember. Like, when they come for you, they come. But luckily, Jackson keeping most of that shit outside, as long as you know what it is. I need to go and take care of some guests. You guys keep it warm for me. I'll be right back.
We'll just watch him go. I don't think they followed us.
I don't think so either. But she waits for him to leave in Mal's word. Keep it warm? Question mark.
You know how it is.
I think they were too busy killing every vampire in the building to, chase us.
Shivers in place, remembering that she was very nearly almost one of those vampires.
I felt like I would be safe here, so that's why I came here.
I suppose we should call that Prince guy and tell him we are not throwing a fucking party in Gary. Fuck it.
You'd never listen to a prince anyway. Fuck him.
It's not like we really give it a choice.
And that's the problem with the illusion of choice. Even when it's really well done, the fact that it is in fact just illusory is hard to avoid. And as you all settle into the safety and security of Genghis' hospitality, discussing a little bit of this, engaging in a little bit of that, and embracing the full-fledged security of distance, time, and surrounding, the realizations as to what you all survived fully settles into place. In the last few weeks, the highest ranking, or one of the highest ranking members of the Anarch movement in Gary, seeking to truly control the city, not as a puppet of anyone else, but fully control the city, was assassinated. The runner-up was in a party, in a gathering, where lupines attacked. There's information being traded left and right pertaining to the happenings across the entirety of the area. The drug problem and criminalization of those who engage in the drug problem of Ash has reached a fever pitch. People are falling prey to it and losing their existences. And a prince from Illinois has engaged your services to create a party, a gathering, where all of the influential kindred in the city of Gary would be at one place at one time. Much like tonight. One plus one isn't always two. Not in a relationship, 1 + 1 = 1. You go from two separate beings into one singular pair, one singular relationship. In other words, the parallels and lines and easily made connections between this evening being a setup, being a trap, is impossible to escape. It is impossible to not realize that this was a test run for an assassination against most of the kindred in Gary. And as that thought, warm and fuzzy though it is, settles into place, it has been fun, adventurous, and hopefully you guys enjoyed yourself as much as I did. Thank you so very much. I'll see you guys next time. Good night, everybody.
Have night.
Night all.